So now we are going to talk about three lessons: the resultant of forces, equilibrium of forces, and moment of forces. Firstly, we'll talk about resultant of forces. Normally, my dear students, in this lesson we have to learn about very simple things. Firstly, we have to identify what is a resultant of force, right? When more than two forces are acting on a particular object, the single force which can give the same result of all the forces acting is called the resultant force, right? So the resultant force, if you take this example, the resultant force is 6 Newton. But if it is a question to answer, you should definitely put the side or the direction of this force, right? And when you come to this question, here 9 Newton will be acting towards the right side and 2 Newton will be acting towards the left side. So the resultant force will be 7 Newton towards the right side. So you should definitely mark the side of the resultant force. And here, if there are two not parallel forces are acting, inclined forces are acting, the resultant force will always lie in between the two forces, right? And here we have to always recall about some instances or examples for these types of resultant forces. When the resultant force is towards a single direction, right, this type of example is we can get pushing a vehicle, right? And here this example we can call it like a tug of war, right? අපි කියනවා කඹ ඇදීම කියලා. කඹ ඇදීම වගේ examples මෙන්න මේකට ගන්න පුළුවන්. Okay, so this is all about resultant forces. Next we are talking about equilibrium of forces. My dear students, there are three types of ways where an object will be at equilibrium. Either an object will be at equilibrium with two forces, or it will be at equilibrium with three forces which are parallel, or else the object can be at equilibrium with three forces which are not parallel. When we come to the first situation, when an object is at equilibrium with two forces, always the two forces must be equal in magnitude, right? And also, always the two forces must be opposite in direction. And the third factor is that always the two forces must lie along the same line of action. When it comes to two parallel forces, three parallel forces, the conditions that must meet is that all the three forces must be coplanar. One force must have the direction opposite the other two forces. And nextly, we can talk about the resultant of any two forces must be equal in magnitude and opposite in direction to the third force. And when the forces are not parallel, when the three forces are not parallel, the conditions that should meet is that all the three forces must be coplanar. That means it should all those three forces should be in the same plane, and the lines of action should meet at one point. And the last factor is that the resultant of any two forces must be equal and opposite to the third force. So moment of forces කියනකොටම you should always recall that the moment of forces, the moment is always equal to the force into perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation. අපි example එකක් ගත්තොත් පුතේ මුලින්ම moment එක හොයනවා නම් පුතේ මේ point x එක වටා moment එක හොයනවා නම් මේ point x එක වටා බලන්න පුතේ මේ x එක කියන point එක අපි consider කරන්න ඕනේ. We should consider the point x and බලන්න මෙතන 5 Newton force එකක් තියෙනවා නම් මේ x එකේ ඉඳන් මෙතනට දුර 3 meters නම් පුතේ හරි the moment will be 5 Newton into 3 meters. මේ බලන්න මේ x point එකේ ඉඳන් තියෙන perpendicular distance එක තමයි 3. එතකොට මෙතන තියෙන force එක තමයි 5 Newton. එහෙනම් 5 Newton into 3 equals 15 Newton meters කියලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේම සමහර ගණන් වල අහනවා පුතේ මෙතනට තව force එකක් දීලා මේ ගණන් විදි දෙක විතරයි තියෙන්නේ. මෙතෙන්ට තව force එකක් දීලා කියනවා පුතේ මේ object එක තියෙන equilibrium එකේ කියලා. පුතේ object එක equilibrium එකේ තියෙනකොට හැම වෙලේම anti clockwise පැත්තට තියෙන moment එක equal වෙනවා clockwise පැත්තට තියෙන moment එක. බලන්න මේ object එක x එක වටා කරකවන්න හදනවා නම් මේ anti clockwise පැත්තට හැරෙන්න තියෙන probability එක නැත්තම් තියෙන moment එක equal වෙනවා පුතේ මේ පැත්තෙන් දෙන clockwise moment එකට. මොකක් හරි අපි consider කරන axis එකක් වටා. එහෙනම් ඒක consider කරලා මේ x axis එක වටාට equilibrium එකට අපි දාන්න පුළුවන්. බලන්න 5 Newton into 3 මේ x axis එක වටා තියෙන මොමන්ට් එක 5 නිව්ටන් into 3 equal වෙනවා පුතේ මේ x axis එක වටා anti clockwise පැත්තට තියෙන මොමන්ට් එකට එහෙනම් f into x මෙන්න මේ condition එක දාලා අපිට මේ moment ගණන් හදන්න පුළුවන්. So these are the only things that we have to know when making sums in moment of forces. මේකේ අන්තිමට අපි කතා කරනවා පුතේ couple of forces ගැන. මොනවද couple of forces අපි දන්න examples ගැන. We can talk about opening a tap and the movement of a steering wheel. ඒ වගේ examples අපිට කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්. So these are all about resultant forces, equilibrium forces and moment of forces. I hope you got a clear idea about these lessons. So let's meet with another productive tutorial. Thank you.